Good afternoon. This is Jeff again, and today is going to be kind of a more serious topic than most of the other stuff that I usually post. Usually I'm being a troll or something else, but this one kind of made me open my eyes a little bit. We're going to talk about suicide, reasons why, prevention. The reason why I bring this up that this morning while reading on one of the Facebook military sites, one of several that I'm actually joined in, that somebody posted a message about somebody that I once knew from the late 1980s into the 1990s, a guy that I served with in the National Guard. And we lost contact with this guy right around 2002, just right after 9/11. Apparently, a couple weeks ago, he committed suicide. We don't know the reasons, we don't know the method, and we don't know why. We don't know anything about it, but it did say that a couple weeks ago he killed himself. All right. So before I get into more detail on this, I guess this will be part one. I'm going to give you examples of people that I knew that committed suicide, different reasons, and why. I'm trying not to be really morbid about it. So these people that I'm going to mention, I will not give last names or anything like that, to mainly to protect their families and protect, them themselves. The last known suicide that I know of by somebody that I grew up with was about roughly 20, 25 years ago, maybe. A guy that I grew up with, one of two Ronnies we're going to talk about. This one guy, Ronnie, I grew up with him and his two brothers, and we were all family friends, real tight. I mean, super tight. My mom and my dad, with their mother and father, they grew up together in the late 60s going into the early 60s going into the 70s. So we all knew each other as babies. We were, this high. Anyway, Ronnie was one of those kind of guys. When he got older, he was one of those guys who played football in school. He was good looking, big dude, good looking, blonde hair, blue eyes, lifted weights, had some nice girlfriends. And eventually he got a decent job. Working construction. Eventually he became a foreman. As I went off into the military and became a tow truck driver, he was off doing construction, became a foreman. Ronnie, unfortunately, had problems with drinking and steroid abuse. He'd fucking shoot the steroids up to bust those big weights. So we're talking about a guy, who had, fucking big guns. And he was good looking. And he had all the chicks. But somewhere along the years that went by after we all separated in our mid-30s, we all went our own separate ways. Once in a while, we break a phone call and say, hey, bro, how you doing? Apparently, Ronnie had a girlfriend. They had a kid together, young son. His name was Eric. And young Eric died in a drowning accident when he was 5 years old. The reason is Ronnie then was so distraught about it. His girlfriend moved away. And he was so distraught that he couldn't deal with it. Ronnie took a handful of pills, big handful, downed that thing with some liquor. And before he was found upstairs in his bed, he lit his house on fire. So Ronnie ended up dying in a house fire, as well as any kind of drug overdose or whatever, I guess, to make sure he didn't wake up when the flames were burning him. So anyway, that was the end of Ronnie. And the second Ronnie that I'm talking about is a guy that I also grew up with. And the other Ronnie and Sonny knew this Ronnie and his sister Cindy real well. All of us, again, were always playing together. Everybody knew each other's fathers and mothers. Good times back in the 60s, early 70s. Apparently this Ronnie, apparently was distraught over some sort of problems he had in college. He wasn't a drinker that I knew of. He wasn't a real big party animal, but he was one of those guys who wanted to be an overachiever. He's one of those kind of guys that he took everything very seriously. He wanted to be rich. He wanted to be powerful. The story that I got is he was distraught over something in school, in college, and he could not take the stress or whatever happened. And according to some witnesses, he walked out in front of a train, not the Metrolink that we have now, but the actual trains they used to have running around down here in downtown LA back in the day. And he stood in front of the train and died by getting hit by the train. So basically what I'm saying is everybody has that deep, dark moment in the back of their heads when they just can't deal with it anymore, whatever it might be. And they decide to take that extra step and actually kill themselves. We all have these dark moments. I have them, you have them. And we're not going to go into the religious part of what happens when you commit suicide. We're not going to do the religious stuff. We're going to do mainly what is focused on is reasons why. Personally, I believe that any kind of relationship you have, you can live through it. You just have to fight through it. May it be boyfriend, girlfriend, wife breaking up, taking the kids, try to live with the problem, try to deal with the problem legally or emotionally. And I've heard stories about guys committing suicide because of their families are being broken up, or they break up with a girlfriend. I know one guy who committed suicide because he broke up with his girlfriend. The only girlfriend he ever had for 5 years. Only girlfriend he ever had. And she just didn't want to deal with him no more, and they had a very bad breakup, and they were fighting and arguing, and he says that I cannot live without her. He calls me and he calls a couple of my other friends. I just cannot live without her. And I said, try to work it out. She doesn't want to work it out, blah, blah, blah. He ends up putting a gun to his head and shooting himself. So I personally believe that relationships is probably not the reason why to commit suicide. You can always work it out or just move on. Come on. Look at this face. You think this kind of face will have any kind of long-term relationship? Probably not. But it doesn't stop you guys out there from trying. There's plenty of other guys out there. There's plenty of other girls out there for both sides of the spectrum. Having your son or your daughters or your kids taken away. Well, think about this. Instead of killing yourself because you can't see your son or daughter, go to court and figure out a way how you can see them more often. Or do what my dad did. Eventually have a grown-up relationship. I didn't even start seeing my dad till I was in my 20s. After him and my mom broke up, and they broke up pretty bad. So, and I had to live with that. So now I have a grown-up relationship with my dad. We get to talk about old times. We get to talk about my mom, things like that. Should be the same thing from a lot of you that's doing it. is relationships. Not really worth putting a gun to your head or a handful of pills. At least what I believe. Another one that people are committing suicide over is financial. Money comes and goes. If you're in way over your head, you don't want to put a gun to your fucking head because of it. Come on. Go for bankruptcy and start over again. All money is just a thing to fucking keep you fed and a roof over your head. Is it worth blowing your own brains out over? No. But I've read enough online and a lot of online stories. He was in financial woes. He just couldn't handle it no more, the stress. Oh my God. And he jumps off a fucking bridge. I mean, come on. You're 28 years old, you're going to jump off a fucking bridge because your finances are fucked up? Please, come on. Fucking get with it. Money comes, money goes. You can figure that out. It's easy. Oh, I'm running out of battery. This is the end of part 1. Let's try to see if we can get a part 2.